Hello, welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Spencer Limbach at Spencer_JL. We're talking about tonight's action on FanDuel. Of course, we got a nice slate. Nice little weird 3-game slate early. If you're playing the all-day games, your Coors game right in the middle. So maybe you're happy about that, maybe you're not. But either way, you don't have to worry about it tonight, how much exposure you have. So that's always a nice relief off your mind. If you're too much Coors, not enough Coors, always a battle. But looking at pitcher, there's some elite arms today. There's some interesting options. You and I were discussing it before the show about who we're looking at. Obviously, Matt Harvey, your most expensive pitcher at $11,000, but facing a Giants team that's been hitting righties pretty well recently. So at his price tag, he's certainly in play, but I don't think he'll be in my cash games tonight. We were looking for matchups, and with Nelson Cruz being now day-to-day, leaving last night with back spasms, maybe he plays tonight, maybe he doesn't. If he's out, I love Trevor Bauer at $8,600.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a great pivot down from Harvey if you can't really build a viable lineup around him. And I don't think you have to fit Harvey into your or force him into your lineup by any means. So Trevor Bauer, he's had a nice string of about 5 straight games where he's sitting at about 15, 13, 17 fantasy points. So and one of those came against Seattle at Seattle, 7 innings. With 10 strikeouts and 2 earned runs. So you love the strikeout upside. I believe Seattle ranks in the bottom 5 in that category against right-handed pitching. So non-prohibitive price point, 8.6K. You have to like that. Otherwise, if you need other options, Jesse Hahn, Vegas really likes him tonight. I'm not exactly sure what I think. He's a minus 140 favorite with a 7 over-under in that pitcher-friendly ballpark. Against the Texas lineup, that's really hit or miss. So Hahn, he's had some good outings against good teams, like against Detroit, and that's basically it. I mean, he hasn't really done much outside of facing Detroit for 2 solid outings. So you don't really know what you're going to get out of him, but keep in mind that he is in a pretty decent spot, and there's, there's not very many inspiring pitching options tonight, so I'll keep him on my radar.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have to have a cheap option, a guy who has pitched well over his last 2 starts, Tim Hudson, $6,600. Of course, he's opposed by Matt Harvey, but he's not actually facing Matt Harvey. He's facing the Mets offense, which is terrible. So I think if you just need a cheap option, I don't think he's that bad because you don't expect a lot of run support for Matt Harvey on the other side. If you're looking for other options, Jose Quintana, once again, a lefty against Houston. Houston strikes out more than any other team against left-handed pitching. We saw a couple of the last few games striking out a ton. He has struggles with the long ball, which is concerning, especially against a bunch of power in this lineup. But went 6 1/3 with 7 Ks against them 2 starts ago. 12.33 FanDuel points without the win. So I think that he's an interesting option as well. And on the other side, Vincent Velasquez, not a guy that I know a lot about, but I know that he is a huge prospect. And in 5 starts at AA this season, mind you, AA, not AAA, he did only have a 1.37 ERA. So I'm certainly not paying $8,100 for him. I'm certainly not paying him in cash games. But if you want to throw in one tournament bullet with the guy that no one's ever heard of, you might as well.
Yeah.
All right. Other guys, I don't mind Jake Arrieta either. We know he's got great stuff when he's on, $9,900. I don't really like targeting the Tigers, especially in cash games, but I mean we know especially how good he can
at be. Detroit.
Yeah,
I don't. They're a much better team at home. It seems like so. That's a risky proposition, but I mean, if Harvey doesn't come through, if Bauer's just so, I mean, you could be aligned pretty well for tournaments with Arrieta if he has things going tonight. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's a nice swerve off the top, but so the consensus is we like Trevor Bauer. Matt Harvey certainly in play, but I mean, if you can fit him in your cash games, I think he's a fine play, but I just don't think he's a necessity.
Yep.
Moving on to catcher, of course, Evan Gattis at the top gets a lefty. You're considering him. The guy that I think I'll be playing a lot in my cash games and some GPPs, Miguel Montero, and reason for that being Shane Green. He has absolutely been awful against left-handers this year. His WOBA on the season, 383 and 31 1/3 innings, 6.32 ERA against him. I mean, he's just been terrible against left-handed batters. A lot of good lefties in this Cubs lineup. We'll get to more of them here in a minute. But for me, Montero, 2.6K just makes a lot of sense for cash games.
Yeah, and the Cubs are the highest projected scoring team of the night by at least half a run, which is pretty huge on a slate like this without, an extreme park shift like Coors Field on the board, just, inflating that total. So definitely get some Cubs exposure tonight, and I think Montero's a great, cheap way to do that at an otherwise kind of mediocre position most nights. So 2.6K, have to love that. Keep an eye on the lineup because sometimes he's in, sometimes he's out. You don't really know, but I mean, if he's in, great spot. Otherwise, we have, like you said, Evan Gattis, like him for tournaments, especially in U.S. Cellular against a lefty. Otherwise, Stephen Vogt against Giovanni Gallardo. Don't love the park factor, but Vogt, lefty-righty matchup. He's definitely in play. Also, Matt Waiters, switch hitter. He's coming back into the lineup over the past week, and he's actually produced pretty well. Has 6 hits in his last 4 games. So against Rick Porcello, who has been kind of shaky this year, really. Don't mind him either. But per dollar, I'm in agreement that Montero's probably the best one on the board. Otherwise, if I have the extra cap space, I think I'm going to go with Stephen Vogt.
Yeah, not a blame there. He's been crushing right-handed pitching all season. So for once, actually some decent options at catcher you feel pretty good about. You don't have to force someone terrible in there. So first base, I think our consensus here, Anthony Rizzo is going to be your top play, $4,500. Mentioned Shane Green struggles against lefties. You can go on all day about how good Anthony Rizzo is against everyone, but we'll spare you the details. Just get yourself some Anthony Rizzo tonight. Other options at first base, Freddie Freeman in tournaments against Tyson Ross, who's been wild at times. We know Freddie Freeman will line drive machine. Albert Pujols just continues to crush the ball right now. He's at $3,700 considering him, but if for some reason I can't afford Anthony Rizzo in my cash games, there's going to be 2 options here. I'll give you one, and then I know you'll give the other. I like Adrian Gonzalez. A batter from either side of the plate against Jeremy Hellickson is the guy that I want to play. And he's $3,600 against him tonight, so I think he's in a great spot.
Yeah, and another guy in that range that I kind of had my eye on was Jose Abreu. But, I mean, you love him at home. He's hitting the ball well. His power upside is seemingly back. But you just don't know what to expect from Houston's rookie pitcher. Like we said, he's a great prospect. So I might designate Abreu more towards tournaments for that, especially when you have a guy like Adrian Gonzalez in a matchup that we know is good for basically the same price. So, yeah, I'm going to look at those 2 guys. Otherwise, I know you have another tournament option that's down there a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm throwing out Yonder Alonso, lefty against Williams Perez. Perez, short sample size, only faced 54 lefties this year, but allowing a 329 WOBA. Been getting batted around pretty hard by lefties so far. And Alonso's been looking good since he came back from his injury. He's got 3 multi-hit games already, homer, couple doubles. So $3,100, I think he's got big-time upside.
Yeah, and I think he's always going to have a lower than deserved ownership percentage just because it's a guy named Yonder Alonso that most people have never seen play for the Padres. Yep. I mean, so you have to always take that into consideration when filling out a tournament lineup.
Absolutely. I'll throw out one more guy, more of a cash game option, Adam Lind at $2,700 against Charlie Morton tonight. Second base, for me, I like Dustin Pedroia as a top play. We know he's crushed lefties throughout his career. He's back at it this year, finally starting to show that power stroke once again. He gets Wei Yin Chen on the other side, who he's been decent this season. I mean, he hasn't been bad by any means. But if I'm going to be playing someone at second base, which isn't a particularly deep position tonight, Chen is allowing a 333 WOBA to right-handed batters and 10 home runs. So that, coupled with the guy who's crushed lefties throughout his career, Dustin Pedroia's got to be my top play.
Yeah, and I mean, he's always a multi-hit candidate, candidate for multiple runs. It's strange that, I mean, Jose Altuve for 3.6K against the, pretty much mediocre lefty would be a lock in most game slates, but I don't think we can say that tonight. I mean, he's deserving of consideration, but he's not doing a whole lot lately. Even when he gets 2 or 3 hits, he's only getting about 2 fantasy points. He's not doing anything else. He's not scoring runs. He's not really stealing bases anymore. So I think you're right in saying Pedroia is probably the better play. I'm looking to be somewhat price sensitive at second base. with Pedroia and Howie Kendrick between the two, just kind of seeing where I land. But I like Howie Kendrick against Hellickson. As we said, he's just generous to everyone, righties and lefties alike. And he has 5 hits over his past 2 games, including a 3-run shot last night. So, yeah, I don't mind Kendrick. Is he still batting cleanup? Or
Yeah,
did they switch him around?
well, they've been moving it around a little bit recently, but for the most part, he's been right around there.
So, I mean, great lineup spot, great matchup. I think Kendrick and Pedroia are the guys you want to zero in on.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And he did hit 2 doubles last night. Robinson Cano, if you're back on board, 2.3K, he's really cheap. I mean, if he just fits and you like everything else, I don't mind him, but he's not a guy that I'm actively targeting tonight.
Well, if you're really sold on Matt Harvey and you want to take comfort in that salary, I think you're going to need Robinson Cano at second base for that salary cap relief. So that's really the only scenario I'm considering him.
Yeah, and that's a really good point right there. I mean, you're going to need to find your value somewhere, and at least the guy we know that has a track record at that price, I mean, you're going to have to throw him in there. Third base, for once, not pretty tonight. I'm not a big fan of it. Manny Machado, you mentioned him earlier. Seems like he's going to be the best play. He's $3,300, batting near the top of that order against Rick Porcello, who once again just hasn't been great. He's had his good, he's had his bad, but not a guy you feel confident in. You can throw out Joey Gallo here against Jesse Hahn. Jesse Hahn has been, like we said, he's shown some upside, he's shown some downside, but hasn't been great against lefties. 313 WOBA allowed, slightly below average. We know Joey Gallo's got upside, of course. Outside of that, I really don't like a whole lot of these cheap options, but I will throw out Mike Moustakas at $2,400 against Kyle Gibson. If I'm going to go cheap, it's either going to be him or my boy, Mr. Lonnie Chisenhall.
Yeah. You just had to throw that little Chisenhall pick in there, didn't you?
I had to.
Okay. Yeah, rounding back to Moustakas, I don't know what's up with Kyle Gibson. He's just been... I mean, he's come from a guy who doesn't give up home runs to all of a sudden he was just getting crushed last game, having some trouble with location. So Mike Moustakas, he's on a nice little hot streak himself. I don't know if you'd call it hot streak, but just a string of consistency over his past, 5-7 games. So 2.4K, you can't really beat that price point. Keep him in consideration. Otherwise, I'm with you, Manny Machado. If price, if it works out right, he fits into your lineup, I think he's probably the more solid pick. Otherwise, Chris Bryant, we all know he has great upside. He's expensive, maybe for tournaments. I'm not going to force him in, but if you're building a Cub stack, yeah, I mean, get him in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And for shortstop, there's not a lot of great options. I'm going to throw out Carlos Correa, $2,700. Homered and stole a base last night. Big prospect, as we know. And now facing Jose Quintana tonight. Righty-lefty matchup. He's got the platoon advantage. Certainly a guy that's in play. If you're looking for cheap options, Xander Bogaerts hits lefties really well. If he's in a nice lineup spot, hopefully he'll be batting right around 6th. I like him there. And then if not that, then I'm going all the way down to some cheap guys. Seems like the guy that you always, or at least I always kind of throw in there, is Andrelton Simmons. He's getting a righty-righty matchup, but he's min salary. I mean, had 2 hits, a double last night. If he's got a nice lineup spot, it's hard to pass on him at min salary if you need the savings.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I'm with you with Correa. I just think he has higher upside than anyone else that I'm seeing tonight, especially given the matchup, which is strange to say with a guy with very limited sample size. But 2.7K, don't hate the price point. You could look at Starlin Castro, but like I said, I don't think the upside is there. Even if he gives you multiple hits, he kind of has a Jose Altuve thing going on where he's not doing much anything else. So, yeah, for me, it's probably Correa in the majority of my lineups.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you there. As we move to the outfield here, don't think it's really necessary to pay up for a lot of these big bats. Of course, Mike Trout always in play. We don't need to tell you that. Dodger bats, we're mentioning those once again, Yasiel Puig and Jock Peterson. I don't know, I was saying Peterson. Peterson at $3,800. Those guys certainly in play. A whole bunch of group here that we were both talking about before the show. George Springer, Adam Jones, Dexter Fowler, all those guys in play right around that same price tag. Easy to fit all these guys because none of them are really expensive, all in the mid 3K price tag range. And Dexter Fowler especially because it is a lefty against Shane Green. He's just been terrible in that spot.
Yeah, Fowler leading off for the highest projected scoring team. You have to really like that. He has like a 6 game hitting streak. Yeah, I think that's a nice stack if you're going Rizzo, Montero, those guys around him. I really like that to kind of feed some fantasy points into themselves. One more guy I'm going to throw at you in that range is Josh Reddick, 3.2K. I like that pick against Gallardo. He's been kind of up and down, middling at times as of late, but I think this is a really good matchup. Um, just hopefully the Oakland offense gets something going, gets some people on base to drive him in, or for him to drive in some runs. So that's the only really downside with him is he doesn't have great lineup security, but I think that's a nice little mini stack with Vogt and Reddick if you want to go that route. Otherwise, a guy that I'm going to pencil into pretty much most of my lineups, and he's going to be in my primary cash game lineup, is Cole Calhoun at 2.6K. Against Marco Estrada, you don't love the park factor, but that's just such a cheap price point. It lets you open up and do pretty much whatever you want at the other positions. So 2.6K, just going to slot him in there as a value outfielder and then just kind of build around that.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. I'll throw out Gregory Polanco as well, $3,100. Gives you stolen base floor. He's got upside with home runs as well at times, so gotta like that spot for him. Adam Eaton's the guy who's been facing a couple lefties last couple days, but now gets a righty, making his first major league start. $2,800. He was an awesome cash game play for all last week. I'll be looking his way as well. Elsewhere, if you're trying to target Kyle Gibson, it's hard to know if you really should be or shouldn't be. Lorenzo Cain and Alex Gordon are both 2.6K also. And same thing for Kevin Kiermaier. He's got a fine matchup against Jared Weaver. Has been terrible against lefties. And then if you look for really, really cheap options, there's not a lot to like down here. There was one guy at $2,300, or I'm sorry, David DeJesus, $2,300. Not sure where he's going to be batting. He's been batting anywhere from third to fifth recently, but I like his prospects tonight, especially if Evan Longoria doesn't go.
Yeah, one more guy I'm going to throw out from the outfield. Tournament option is Hanley Ramirez. I think some people are going to shy away because if you look on FanDuel, he has that DTD tag, which you don't know if he's playing, but he also said last night that he's going to be back tomorrow. We don't know exactly how effective he's going to be, but we know that he crushes lefties.
Yep.
So Wai-Yin Chen, he's a decent lefty, but at the same time, I think Hanley could get a hold of one. He's a tournament-only option because there's a chance that he could swing out of his helmet, pull his back, and then, he's done after one pitch. So I don't really know what to expect. Tournament only, but I know that he crushes lefties, so I'm going to keep him on a tournament radar.
Absolutely. I'm on board with that. And with that, that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.